Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special Week 2 edition of In-Season ADP Chasing. We got another week of data under our belts. We'll break it all down here, talk about the players we're panicking on, the players we're victory lapping, and the players we're bag defending. Let's do it.
ADP chasing is for when you watch ship chasing, you go, these guys are just football guys.
And the targets per outrun leagues, that's going to be really nice.
Actually, back in if it's Ashane.
Stare into our crystal ball. Close your eyes, all your entries are going to lose anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is a Deuce Vaughn show.
It's anti-cabal. It's anti the best ball thought leaders. I'm obviously lying to some degree because, I have a lot of both of these guys.
It's the most disgusting pick you can make. But, man. Everyone, and welcome to Week 2 of In-Season ADP Chasing. Joined today, as always, by Pat and Davis. Fellas, how are we doing today after Week 2?
Doing good. How you doing?
You're
Pat,
doing
you got
good?
New background today?
Yeah. I guess, I did this recorded from here for the Shipcast. But, yeah, this is going to be where I'm recording from more often than not instead of the shed. Once people are accusing me of getting kidnapped, I figured it was time to to stream from a different location.
His new bit is he's going to stream from a different room in his house every time. Every time they do the Shipcast, he's going to be in a different room.
Yeah. I think I kind of one-upped you on that bit this offseason from recording from a different house every single show over the offseason, but a different room each time.
Yeah, that's true.
That also works. Might want to mix in some China in the background.
I am working on getting some Revolutionary War era China by me.
Yeah, no, I have some good websites for you to check out. Let me know. Anyways, we'll dive right into it. As we talked about last week, these in-season shows are going to be tight, 1 hour shows. No time for chit chat. We're going to go right into what we'll be doing every week, at least for the next couple weeks, going over one player that we're victory lapping, one player we're bag defending, and one player we are pressing the panic button on. We'll have one of each of these for each of us. So starting with last week, I think, across the board, we had some pretty good calls. The Bears wide receivers that came to fruition again last night, that situation did not look good. Pat and Davis were on that one. J.K. Dobbins, again, if I'm patting myself on the back, that looked really good. Devon A-Chain, Davis had that call, victory lapping that. That looked really good. But yeah, just looked at this quickly. I'll give it to you first, Davis. Anything on your takes from last week you wanted to quickly hit on? Anything you maybe changed your mind on versus last week?
I mean, just as down on the Bears, just as high on A-Chain. I actually don't think the quarterback switch will matter that much for him. Obviously, it'll ding his range of outcomes a little bit, but compared to what's going to happen to Tyreek and Waddle, nothing in the same vicinity. I would just say on Chase Brown, he's definitely a 0 right now. He is not startable in any spot at all. But Zach Moss is a bad player. They gave Zach Moss another goal line attempt. He tried to get around. He looked like an offensive lineman trying to get around the edge on that goal line play. Really bad. But I mean, yes, that is that's bag defending. That's the literal
definition of bag defending.
The literal definition of bag defending is my guy stinks, but the other guy might be worse.
Yeah, especially because he actually hasn't been bad at the thing he's kind of on the field for, which is consistency.
Yeah, pass pro. Yeah.
Well, pass pro and consistency. His success rate is 42% per NFL Next Gen, which includes last week, and that's good. It's not amazing, but it's why he's out there. So I think he would, because that's what if you're the Bengals, what you're kind of giving up going from Brown to Chase is reliability. And so if Moss were to fall down in that respect, then you're like, well, then why don't we have the more explosive running back on the field? This guy's being
you did see. Again, this is the literal definition of bag defending. But who was the running back who was on the field in their final drive when they needed to score? It was Brown, and he got 2 consecutive first downs running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is literally bag defending. My preseason take was wrong, but the Bengals do know that Brown is the quote-unquote more talented player, but that is not what they are. That's not really what they're interested in for 75%.
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah. I think you also have to the interior running. I agree that if we're using talent as a term to encompass like everything, I would agree with you that Brown is the more talented runner. I do think like on interior runs, there's some reps where Chase Brown does not look good.
He just runs
does
into
not,
the ass of his linemen.
Yeah, he runs into the ass of his linemen. I don't think he has like great power on the interior. Get him in space and he's a fun player. But I do think there's going to be some things, even though Moss is not a fun player, there's some things he's just better at than Chase Brown. But again, if I'm going to take the bag defending point of view on Brown, there's only 2 running backs in Cincinnati that they trust at all. There's no, Chris Evans is on IR. Travion Williams isn't getting any snaps. There's no like third guy out there that I can even think of that could mix in. So with an injury to Moss, we're still looking at a pretty big role for Chase Brown, even though he does have weaknesses. So where do you draft him for a lot of the summer? Pick 120. If he is just kind of like a contingent play at worst, that's not even that bad.
It's not that bad. Yeah.
You regret maybe some of the shares in the 90s,
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I do regret doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's easy to imagine him having a huge game if Moss were to miss time. So from that perspective, I think it's a pretty strong bag defend. Like he definitely has that upside in a way where you're like, if Moss just feels like he's going to do this all season. It's like regardless of what happens with Brown.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, we're a forward-looking show, so let's move on to next week. Just so everyone in the audience, maybe you're new to in-season ADP chasing. Just to be clear on these definitions, I'll go through it again. Victory lapping is a player we're moving up way higher in our rest of season rankings after this past week's performance, or maybe past 2 weeks' performance. Bag defending is a guy that maybe the market is panicking on. His price is maybe down in some of the in-season best ball contests, but you think his position is largely unchanged. And then panic button is a guy that we think should be moving way down basis, compared to where we drafted in the summer and so on. So those are the definitions. They can correspond to our takes from the offseason. I think they usually will, but we're also talking big picture here. It's okay to say, do a victory lap for a guy you weren't in on if they just look a lot better. We're not solely constrained to our own personal takes. So with that said, I think I'll give it to Pat this week for his first victory lap player. Very nervous he's going to steal the guy who I want to talk about here. But Pat, who is your number 1 victory lap player after week 2?
James Cook. This is a guy I actually was in on, but I never was in on him as much as like I wanted to be. Like there's, with me and running backs, I got to get really excited in the early rounds. And at that point, I'll have a huge bag. But if I'm not, then it's easy to go, I'd like to take Xavier Worthy here, or Rashee Rice isn't going to be in the 5th much longer, or, whatever other receiver I've decided I need to grab, or the elite tight ends were going in a similar range. Some of the quarterbacks were going there. So there was lots of distracting things in round 5 that kept me from going like really, really heavy on Cook, but I did end up overweight and was a guy. I mean, part of the reason I was really comfortable fading ETN and Jacobs and Pacheco and, some of these other running backs like Henry was that I was like, I can just get James Cook in the 5th. And he's like a better bet than these guys. Honestly, I was going to do a truth serum take, for Pete's video on James Cook, but Daniel Raz just did a way better version of my take. And so I had to pivot, but he was a guy I was like, what? I believe I said on ADP chasing early on, like I like him more than Pacheco. And I liked him more than ETN, but like the reason that people weren't really buying into that, which I understand, is that like, he's just not going to score the touchdowns, and maybe he is.
But what if he does?
And yeah, that's the big thing. And in that sense, it was just a really clean bet. It was similar to Eckler a few years ago, where it's like, he's not going to score the touchdowns, so he can't be like a 1st round value. But then he did score the touchdowns. And
it's one of the biggest things in fantasy, when guys who don't score touchdowns all of a sudden start scoring them and they're getting the touches they did before. It changes the whole thing.
It changes the whole thing. And he's really explosive. He's versatile. He's everything we're looking for in a running back, because, he's also on the Bills, and all of a sudden the Bills are all about running the ball. They're way less pass heavy than they used to be. So I don't know that he's going to be. I don't think this is like as clean a hit as we got with Eckler that year, where he was like all of a sudden their goal line back. Like I think Ray Davis over time will steal touchdowns. We saw in week 1 that Josh Allen will steal touchdowns. But Cook went from a guy who had basically no touchdown equity, like 2 touchdowns last year, to now having legitimate touchdown equity. He's like a normal running back. And so we would just take him much earlier. I think he would have gone like in that 3rd round range, maybe early 3rd round range, if we knew what we know now.
Yeah, I 100% back this take. And yeah, I ended up with 14% James Cook on Underdog, which I'm pretty happy with. Again, on DraftKings, I actually don't know how to check my DraftKings exposures anymore.
They took it away. They took it away. You can't right now.
This is great, Cope, for me, because that way I can just make up the exposure.
You just tell yourself whatever it is.
But Underdog, I do confirm to have 13.6% of James Cook. Very, very happy with that. And my thesis, which hasn't even completely come true, I guess it has in some ways, but I think we were kind of tripping over ourselves this offseason to figure out who is the pass catcher in Buffalo that is going to take the big leap. People were chasing Keon Coleman way up the board. I understand why. People were chasing Kincaid way up the board. I understand why. I fell for the Curtis Samuel trap a little bit.
Oh, God.
Khalil Shakir, he went, in the early 100s after not doing much through 2 years in his career. So we were trying to figure out the situation. And I thought the most logical answer was just that James Cook is in some ways the centerpiece of the offense alongside Josh Allen. Again, it wasn't the cleanest bet. Like you had to squint to see the touchdown upside based on what he's done in the first 2 years in his career.
You had to do more than squint. It was an open your third eye sort of situation.
It was an open your third eye, but I did have the Eckler. I don't know if I made the comparison on the show or anywhere, but I did have the Eckler thing in the back of my mind. It's that like everything is there. He was a guy who had 1,600 yards from scrimmage the prior year. He's a good receiver. He's an explosive player. Like all we need is just the touchdown variance to go our way. And he's on a good offense. So like there's upside if it does go our way. So he was a guy I was pretty heavily in on. I'm really, really happy about that. 100% agree with Pat's take. Davis, I guess putting you on the spot a little bit with James Cook, like rough, if you were like redrafting today, like where do you think Cook goes roughly? I know you don't like fully have that mapped out now, but like gut
2-3 turn. I think he's still like right behind A-Chain. I feel is kind of the right behind where A-Chain was going.
A-Chain was going, yeah.
If we redrafted today, A-Chain would be a first round pick. I think
it's tough to. Whenever I say stuff, I just assume everyone else we don't have any more information about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's like I don't know. It just gets so complicated.
Then it becomes a sliding glass doors thing of like, well, we just have to do a show re-ranking the entire field.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a tough thing to do unless you actually go out and try to do it. All right, moving on, Davis. Who is your victory lap player after 2 weeks of NFL football?
Well, sadly, you got to be the biggest Nico Collins bull on the show, despite the fact that I had 20% of him. So you kind of stole that from me. So I will then go with the guy who should have been going 101 the whole time, Justin Jefferson. Respectfully, he's not Garrett Wilson. Respectfully, he's not Garrett Wilson. And I think
that was parentheses derogatory from Justin Jefferson.
That was parentheses very
respectfully derogatory. I am not.
Respectfully, Garrett Wilson, you are not.
We need
him,
to steal that. We need to use some respect, please.
I think something we are going to look back on, assuming that this quad injury is not a big deal, is we drafted a 29-year-old running back, a 30-year-old wide receiver, a wide receiver holding out, Bijan Robinson. We drafted all these guys.
Reese has a case to be the 101 in a.
The 101 on his. I was going to say.
Are you Braylon Allen now? Is this a Braylon Allen too? Davis is in love.
Yeah, watching Braylon Allen score a screen pass touchdown. I was like. Davis in March was the sharpest drafter in fantasy with
Davis had
it. Justin Jefferson, he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. The idea that KOC was going to be able to look at Sam Darnold and go, good enough for me. Why not? Yeah, I can work with this. That's exactly what happened. the JJ McCarthy thing. Watching Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and
dude, I
and
think
all these other
that was
rookie
a huge,
quarterbacks might be a win.
very helpful.
Might be a win. Yeah, might be a win that that JJ McCarthy is not available. So yeah, I think Justin Jefferson, the rightful 101. Yeah,
I don't see how it's not a win. I mean, like McCarthy's not making that deep bomb throw. Like Darnold,
no.
Darnold does stuff that loses NFL teams games and everything, but he is willing to take chances, and they're willing to throw the ball more than I assume they would be with a rookie quarterback. Like you can't let a rookie quarterback embarrass himself.
Beat the 49ers as a 5-point home dog.
Yeah, that's no joke. I mean, Davis, I think you deserve full credit for this take. I was not like fully Jefferson pilled like you were. I wasn't one of those people that was fading him. I think I was right at market. Like I was just taking him where the market told me to take him. That was clearly a little bit wrong. I probably should have been doing what you were doing. But yeah, assuming this thigh injury is nothing, I don't understand how you can't have Jefferson in the top 3 or 4. Maybe even as early as 101. I'd have to think about that further. But so many people in front of him have failed or things have not gone their way. You know, the CMC injury, Tyreek loses to so on and so on. I think Jefferson has a clear case to be 101, like you're saying, all offseason. Pat, any closing thoughts on Jefferson?
I did towards the very end with Davis kind of in the back of my head. I did go more Jefferson. I thought before everyone panicked on Chase, I would sometimes break ties to Jefferson over Chase. So I got up to 10% on underdog, which feels good. But yeah, you are all over this one, Davis. He's the best wide receiver in the league, and his quarterback play is.
Oh, don't give me too much credit, man. There are a lot of L's that are just going to be. It feels good to get. It feels good to get a first round stance, right? Like if Jamar Chase was just going nuts and Justin Jefferson had 6 catches through 2 games, I'd be like, well, I'm definitely not making money in best ball this year. Like, no, I'm making money in best ball this year. So getting a first round stance right does feel pretty
good.
That
is nice.
Yeah. The only the slightest, devil's advocate thing I would say is like, we have seen this with Darnold before where he looks good for a handful of games.
True.
And it all comes apart. Yes. So I'm just keeping that in mind. I think it's pretty legit. I really like KOC as a play caller in Minnesota. So I'm not saying the Darnold stuff is a fluke, but just keep that in mind. Maybe if you can get an insane trade package for Jefferson in one of your leagues, like you get, I don't know, Chase plus James Cook.
I think
I don't even know what it is.
Tyreek is one you could do in your 12-team home league. You could get Tyreek and Kenneth Walker, like right now or something like that. I think, and Charbonnet played really bad. So
yeah, but I'd be wanting to sell very high on Chase. I'm definitely not saying he's a sell. Only if you can get tons of value. All right, my victory lap. I was worried, so I had a backup option prepared, but I'm going with the guy who I wanted here, Brock Bowers. He looks like an absolute smash where he was going. DraftKings around pick 100, underdog I think around pick 90, something in there. Here's where Brock Bowers is at through 2 games of his NFL career. In PPR points per game, he's the tight end 2. Targets per route run, he's the tight end 4. An insane 27% targets per route run. That would have been very close to leading the league last year, if not number 1, probably in the top 3. And then here's the kicker. He's tight end 20 in route participation, in the same range of guys like Greg Dulcich and Johnny Munt. So some people might see that as a bad thing. I see that as a massive upside case for Brock Bowers. Like we talk about with rookie wide.
What is his route participation?
He's to the tight end 20 in route participation. I believe he's at like 70%, like 68%, something like that. Low 70s.
Mayer played a ton. I don't know why, but Mayer played a ton more in this game than he did in week 1.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that Bowers is ever going to be like 100%. That's really rare at tight end, by the way.
Tight ends tend to peak around 85.
Yeah.
But if he's in the low 70s, that's meaningful to jump another 15.
Yeah. So there's room to grow on the route participation for sure. And he just looks really good to me. I think it's pretty rare tight ends that can go out in man coverage and beat corners and safeties on in-breaking routes, out-breaking routes. He can kind of do it all. Like when you watch him, he doesn't look like the world's most athletic tight end. Like he doesn't look like Gronk, one of these absolute athletic freaks out there, but he's just so reliable.
He just gets open.
He just gets open. Really technical route runner. He's good after the catch. Again, not like world beating levels of speed or athleticism, but he's just really good at the game. And yeah, I think if I was redrafting today, I would have Bowers in my top 3 of tight end. Like I'd have McBride over him. Who is the second tight end I'd have over Bowers right now? I'm not even sure I can confidently list a second one. Like he's up there in the top 3 for me. So I feel really good about. I had, I think, 22% exposure on DraftKings, 16% on Underdog. I'm really happy with the Brock Bowers bags.
Damn, you don't even have a 2 in front of your Bowers exposure, bro. Do you know ball?
I do on DraftKings, not on Underdog. It took me a while. I had to get bullied by Jacob Sanderson.
Sam's best ball teams go to
Jacob Sanderson, thank you for bullying me on Brock Bowers. He bullied me in the right direction, got me there. Yeah, I was only at 12%. I didn't go nuts, but it could have been like a fade situation, which obviously would just be disastrous. He's I mean, it wasn't that hard of a sell. Like he is one of the best tight end prospects of all time. I was never that worried about the athletic testing. This dude led like all of college football in yak for 3 straight years, and then came out as before his true senior season. That seems really good, and then went very high, and really would have gone higher in a different era where the teams were worrying less about the positional value of a tight end. Like if this was like 2003, he's like the 102. He goes ahead of Daniels or something insane.
Yeah.
He was seen as like the best player in the draft of positions aside outside of Caleb Williams probably. So I guess then when like it's like, oh well, he might not be that athletic. Like I mean, odds are he's athletic enough given what he did and given how excited people were about his tape. So yeah, I thought that situation would be tough. And so I got nervous about it early on in the, Best Ball Mania season, May and stuff. But Jacob always had it right. It's like this guy, the profile we're getting access here to at this price is just really unheard of.
It's total zoom out on the chart stuff. Like Gretsch is really good at writing about this stuff and stealing signals. It's like, just take players who are insanely good and the rest of it will take care of itself. And that's totally what's happening with Bowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, victory lapping for like not being that concerned about like exactly how all of these situations are going to break out. Like how is Bowers possibly going to get there? Like, I don't know, man. He will though. Like he will. Yeah. I don't know how exactly, but he will because he's like the best tight end to enter the league.
Because he's the GOAT.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And I think like an insightful process that I came to this summer is like my initial gut reaction to the Bowers thing, which I backed off of completely, was, Devontae Adams is there. Jacoby Myers is there. They're going to eat into the target share. Michael Mayer's there. He's going to steal some routes from Bowers.
Right.
It's a bad quarterback. Like it's just a bad situation. And, but you have to think about like, if you're that precise in how a situation is going to play out, you're missing the outcome where the Raiders offense to me, like looks pretty good. Like it's actually good that Devontae Adams is out there on the outside, so teams can't put all their attention on Brock Bowers. Like, what you're gonna double cover Bowers and leave Devontae Adams on the outside in single man coverage? Like you're gonna get smoked. You got Trey Tucker out there. Like he's a fun vertical slot player. He's the guy that threatens the defense. Like they have some actually kind of fun pass catchers in my opinion, and I think that actually helps the offense stay on track and helps Bowers.
Zoom in on the chart even more. Every offense sucks. This is the lowest passing touchdown, lowest YPA, lowest ADOT that's ever been around in the NFL. Like we're at I think 15-year lows. What was it? 66 passing touchdowns is the all-time record for lowest passing touchdowns in a week. Last week was the lowest scoring week in the NFL in a decade. And unless the game tonight goes for 147 points, this week too is going to be even worse. It's going to be even lower scoring. So if that's true, then being a 20% target share guy on the 17th best offense is fine because like every offense kind of stinks.
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead, Crane. You had something there.
No, I just agreed. I just agreed with
Okay.
what Davis just said. Yeah.
Yeah. And the only tiny thing to add to that for Davis is I actually don't have the week 2 numbers in front of me, but the Raiders were like a top 5 team in pass rate over expected in week 1. I think they're actually kind of like giving up on this Zamir White is the engine of our offense thing like pretty quickly. They're using Bowers and Devontae Adams RPOs as like an extension of the run game. Like that PPR floor from just like the scammy like screens to Bowers, like that's huge in fantasy if that's his floor. So yeah, he's just a guy. I don't know. Is it a hot take to say top 3 tight end rest of the season? Like,
no,
because that's firmly.
I think I'd only do McBride over him right now.
Yeah, I think same for me.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hot take. I mean, we were deciding between Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Brock Bowers in a tight end premium.
And you just started Bowers.
We didn't start Bowers.
Oh.
We were like,
Pitts is going to have a good game tonight.
Yeah, let's start the Falcons guys. And then we were just like, Pete just messaged like, Bowers is locked into the lineup. Like, we're never sitting Bowers.
Yeah, he's locked, dude.
So right there, I mean, was Pitts locked in the lineup? Maybe not, So he's I don't think it's a hot take at all to say he's top 3 tight end now. We can't. I guess I was one of the things you said about Adams just had me thinking like it is. I think when we as fantasy analysts and stuff, you think about target share and all of that, and we divide up the target pie. And is there enough targets to go around? And someone was like in the chat was like, wait, why did you think it was a bad situation? It really came down to like that, like the targets, like how many targets are we get? It's a run first offense, not very high quality targets. And they're split up between Adams and Myers and, Mayer's going to run routes and all that. But there's just such a big difference between a guy like Devontae Adams, who's going to earn his targets, but also like make the defense pay for not covering him compared to like Deontay Johnson or something like, there's target eaters, right? And there's target earners. And Devontae Adams being a target earner actually makes the offense a lot better. So I think that's like one thing I want to think about more, next year. Like if you're next to a guy who's so good that he's going to get targets even if he's double covered. Like if you're next to Justin Jefferson, right? And obviously we saw with TJ Hawkinson, like TJ Hawkinson can eat next to Justin Jefferson because Jefferson's just really, really good for an NFL offense. Not every guy who earns targets is, because sometimes they're just scooping up underneath volume and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Cooper Kupp is extremely inefficient and bad for NFL offenses, but he just gets a lot of targets. All right, moving on here to.
I can't believe I set you up for that.
I had to get a dig in. You guys made me feel so much pain last week. I was literally having Cooper Kupp nightmares last week, so I had to get a little something in there. Let's move on here to bag defending. Davis, who's a player you're bag defending this week. Again, we mean bag defending not as just like the actual real definition of bag defending, but someone you actually think the market shouldn't be panicking on. Give it to you, Davis.
Well, buddy, the chat is going to hate this one. They are going to be retching and vomiting and saying how stupid I am. But I'm really not worried about Travis Kelce. The routes are fine. He had a 41-yard gain called back by a pretty ticky tack.
Looked pretty good on that too.
And I was going to say that literally was classic Kelce. Like
couldn't have been more classic.
Finds the soft spot in the zone, pretends he's going to lateral it to Rashee.
Yeah,
Rice.
Yeah, he's doing this.
And the Chiefs, I will say this would be more the panic button. And I'm not going to do this as my panic button, but I will say, the Chiefs just do not care right now. They were down a touchdown at home to their biggest rivals, and they were just like lollygagging. They were just like, they're on the sideline, just like chatting, just like, whatever, we'll win this game. We'll get one good foul call and we'll win. It's exactly what happened. But Kelce is going to score 9 touchdowns. I think the thing that will be different is he probably is not going to have any like 10 catch games anymore. That is probably over. That's Rashee's role now, but it's definitely not going to surprise me if we get to the end of the season and Kelce has the 2 highest individual scoring games of any tight end because the Chiefs just decided they needed him in 2 weeks, or they just decided to try. And I mean the Pacheco injury as well. Like they're already the number one team in the NFL in pass rate over expectation. I'm going to guess they tilt that way even more. So I am bag defending Kelce. I'm not super panicked about him.
Crane, what are your thoughts on Kelce? You think Davis is right here?
I hope so. We'll have a bunch of Travis Kelce. So, but I mean, I agree with the that play gets called back. He had that play where he gets stopped at the goal line. So
yeah, he almost scored.
He almost scored. And I do think it's probably good. Like, I wrote this up in the walkthrough last week, and it didn't work out this week, but there's a lot of their offense is still driven by the exact type of target that Kelce feasts on. This underneath kind of Rashee Rice target. And right now, those are going to Rice, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's always going to be the case. And we know that they have a great connection, Mahomes and Kelce. So I could see him racking up targets. I think it's probably going to be a little bit more about like what does the defense prefer to take away.
They also started out the year Ravens, Bengals, like two of their biggest regular season games that they're going to play, like tight, good defenses that have historically done well against them. Yeah, I just like if we're doing this in a month, or if we're doing this after 4 weeks, and it's like they keep getting, Mahomes is throwing 28 passes and backup tackles are scoring, then sure, I will evaluate. But nothing that I've seen through 2 weeks has been like, well, Kelce can't score points. It would be impossible for Kelce to score points in this offense.
Yeah, and I mean, like, from if we zoom out on the chart, like, does Patrick Mahomes still look, really good? Does this offense look like one we want to be invested in? Does it look like it's going to be a lot better than last year? They just lost a running back. Like, the Hollywood Brown is going to be out for a long time. Like, it's actually the underlying situation is actually quite a bit more bullish for Kelce than it was when we were drafting him.
Do you like Pat's new bit of throwing one of the worst interceptions you've ever seen once a week, just like kind of as a way to keep things fresh? Like his new bit is just throw the worst interception you can possibly imagine.
It's the on-field equivalent of drafting CEH, just to prove that he has the pull with the front office.
It's like when Larry Bird used to randomly try and score only left-handed for a game. Like, just let me just basically throw a lateral to a linebacker and just see what happens.
Yeah. I think I'm probably a little biased because I didn't have as much Kelce as you guys. I think you guys make good points. I think like Kelce has to come down in the tight end rankings versus where he is to start the season, but he's definitely not a full-blown panic.
Well,
he could still be.
We're only a half hour in,
sure.
So we have time. We can do this. McBride 1, Bowers 2, LaPorta or Kelce. I got Kelce.
Kelce.
Yeah,
Kelce.
I got Kelce.
I go LaPorta for the age model stuff. But
JMO breaking out is a disaster for LaPorta.
I got some LaPorta
for LaPorta.
I got some LaPorta takes later, so
okay.
Let's not step all over me. But I don't think it's crazy. I certainly think it's the same tier, Kelce and LaPorta. But yeah, that's a reasonable point. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say on Kelce.
I mean, honestly, like he could have easily had what? It still would have been like 2 for 46 and a touchdown. Like I'm giving him both plays there. But like, he's got 2 for 46 and a touchdown, we're like, that sucks, but like we survived.
2 for 46 and a touchdown, that's tight end 1 of any given.
Yeah, we're into it. Yeah, we're into that. So I don't know. I mean, it's just like, to me, it's a zoom out situation. It's been a frustrating, and I mean, if you were making the case, which I kind of was, that like, look, Kelce's still Kelce, and the offense is going to rebound. So like, this is going to be pretty sweet to get him at the 3-4 turn or the mid 4th sometimes. That bull case is looking much, much weaker, but he was still going very cheaply for,
Yeah, he wasn't. It's not like he was going in the first round like last year.
Yeah, exactly. So I still think like the bear case on him was like very confident. Like, Kelce's not who he was. He's going to get rested at the end of the season, and so far the bear case is working out great. But I still think that at the price he was going at, he could still hit pretty big.
Yeah.
Not as big as I was hoping, but still, solid.
The one thing I'll say is that, like, to me, Kelce does look kind of slow out there, but he also kind of looks slow out there to me.
Always.
Last year. He has these weird.
Did Kelce ever look?
When did Kelce look fast?
No, he definitely looks different than how he looked in his prime. I think it's burning your head in your sand to not believe that.
He's 34.
Yeah, but that's part of the thesis of not ranking him as high, right? I'm just saying that, like, Kelce looks older to me, but he still has these plays where it's scramble drill. He gets open. He makes defenders.
It's the head turn. He's the most elite, like, head faker of all time. That it gets the defender every time on the scramble drill.
There's defenders that he has no business, like, juking out of their shoes, and he still does it, even though he's slow and doesn't look that fast. So I'm definitely not walking on Kelce's grave here. I think there'll be big games. Before we get to the next thing, we never self-promote on the show, almost to a fault. Didn't want to say 600 people watching. Let's get the likes numbers up here, guys. I'll move on to my bag defending player. This one is maybe a little too obvious, but I think in your more casual home leagues, you could actually take action on this. Chris Olave. I get that other wide receivers going. Yeah, I get that other wide receivers that went near him in drafts. Nico Collins, Devontae Adams, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison. They've had huge blow-up games, and Olave has not. So that sucks as a drafter. You haven't had that huge game yet. But his per route stats, 21% targets per route run. That's not incredible, certainly not horrible. 2.4 yards per route run through 2 weeks. That's extremely efficient. That'd be a top 15 metric in the NFL through a full season. And, like, the biggest storyline in the entire NFL right now is how Clint Kubiak, or Clint Shanahan, as I call him, has turned Derek Carr into, like, Brock Purdy on steroids. Like, Derek Carr I think they've scored 15 times on 15 offensive drives.
It is true. Season. Everyone is talking about this in a way that is like, my whole Twitter timeline is way too nerdy to be this locked in on Clint Kubiak, but it's all anyone's talking about.
It's all anyone's talking about. So we have who I think is still, Rashid Shaheed, we can get to that conversation. I think he's a baller. He's a player too, but I still think in Chris Olave, we have the best offensive weapon on the team. That's like the number one storyline in the NFL so far, and the box score results have not been there. So if you can buy low in your casual leagues, or maybe in some of these best ball contests, if he's gone down a round or so, I think he's a huge buy. I think he's going to have massive weeks this season. Just zooming out on the chart and where the Saints offense is. Give it to you, Corinne, on your thoughts on Chris Olave.
I love that one. That's a great one. To me, it's a similar type of situation. The arguments we're making for Kelce, where it's like, hey, like this, do you want to be more invested in the Saints passing game than you were before, or less? Right? You want to be more invested in the Chiefs passing game or less? Like more. The Saints, obviously, very, very obviously, more invested in their passing game and their running game, I guess. I mean, Alvin Kamara is really making my fate on him look dumb. But 45% play action rate for Derek Carr. He was at 14% last year. He went from the lowest play action rate in the league to the highest play action rate in the league. It's been, that's not the only change they made, but I think, sums up kind of the change in philosophy quite nicely. Like, let's get this guy moving around a little bit more, unlock some bigger plays, have the defense not be sure what we're going to do before we do it. Seems pretty sharp. So, I didn't really necessarily fully buy the week one performance. I thought they would probably struggle against this Cowboys defense that was going to be able to pressure them in a way that the Panthers really weren't. They did not. They did run it through Kamara more this week, which I thought they might do, but I thought they might do it as like nothing else is really working and it's going through Kamara, but everything was working and Kamara has the blow up game. I think the Saints, they're just so much better designed than they were. And so betting on their number one receiver, who's been a little quiet so far, just is a sharp way to play it.
Yeah. And it's only 2 weeks for the season. Long way to go. I'll make a prediction now. Clint Kubiak is going to be one of the buzzier head coach candidates this next offseason.
He's going to be the Bears head coach.
Yeah.
Frankly, he should be the Saints head coach.
Yeah. That They should just fire Dennis Allen right now after going 2-0 and blowing out both of his opponents.
That should, man.
Just fire him and hire Clint Kubiak.
Because you have to do it, because if Clint Kubiak has any other job, he's going to take that job. I mean, the Saints are in cap hell. Like, you got to get out of there if you can. But right now, if you offered him the job, he might take it.
And then I'll just add this on the Saints discussion. A lot of people in the comments saying, Kamara's the focal point, Shaheed breaking out, that's a huge factor.
Just really
I agree with that.
Understanding how it works.
Here's the thing: on good offenses, you can have 3 very good fantasy assets. So, like Shaheed,
I'm
good.
sorry, Shaheed is not going to score a 50-yard touchdown every week. What Olave does is much more replicable. He got tackled on the 1-inch line. Like it just drives me nuts, man. It's like, this is the first year I've done fantasy content literally every day and like interacted with the public. And the craziest thing to me is just how like literally a foot being in bounds or a foot being in bounds just like affects the conversation for the entire rest of the week. I do wish people, honestly, I just wish people would watch every game, I think is actually what I'm asking. But it drives me nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, and this is a great time of year for this. It's like we want to not like zoom out completely, but like, if we're looking for more of a high level perspective of are the Saints better than we thought? Yeah, they're definitely better. But like in exactly this way, they're going to be better in Kamara's going to score 4 touchdowns every week and Shaheed's going to get loose deep every week. Like, no, like but they're doing things that are working. This goes from an offense that was kind of an afterthought in drafts to one that we want to be invested in, I think. I mean, I think we want to be invested in the Saints offense. Like, as crazy as that felt, a month ago. I did it, as my truth serum. I was like, I think the Saints are like fine backdoor stacks. But I wasn't like, the Saints are going to go nuts. That would have been crazy.
It's always just so tough on how much to trust the coach change stuff. Like I had the Kubiak thesis in my mind all off season, but I can't say I was like 100% all in on it. Like I don't have 30% Derek Carr or whatever. Like I was somewhat in.
Our last show of the season, you were like, why don't we just take Saints? Why don't we just take Saints backdoors? And boy, let me tell you, I've got a lot of Patriots and Broncos backdoors that I would love to trade. Dude, I would trade it in for Carr A.T. Perry at this point.
What about Kendrick Miller? Carr,
literally
Mason
Carr
Tipton.
and a player on the IR.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could get a Sutton Nix for a Carr A.T. Perry. I don't know if you're getting that deal.
No.
I had Cortland Sutton higher 37.5 receiving yards in like every underdog pick 'em entry yesterday, and just was miserable watching Bo Nix drop back to pass.
I mean, you should never do anything that makes you watch Bo Nix. I've learned 2 weeks in. I've learned that
you can't. The Broncos they're not even unwatchable in like a fun way. It's not like the Will Levis experience where he's doing crazy shit out there. It's Bo Nix just like checking down and like
it's like every
slowest
time
wide receivers of all time catching the ball, like just the slowest guys.
Every time they would cut to Steelers Broncos on Red Zone last night, it was just like, what are we hoping to have happen here? Like, can we just watch the Cardinals? Can we just watch anything other than this? I would rather watch
the Cardinals.
Matt Stafford had like his worst game in 15 years in the NFL yesterday. I'm like, I'd rather watch Matt Stafford fumble in the pocket trying to complete passes to Tyler Johnson than watch one more second of Bo Nix.
Yeah. Don't we have any like cringy Rob Gronkowski commercials or something to watch instead of the Broncos? I'll watch anything instead of Bo Nix.
Yeah, it's kind of Bryce Youngy, or Bryce Young last year, I guess. But he's sort of playing a little different this year. It's still bad, but it's like he's trying to do conservative things, and then it's not. It's taking.
He's literally not good enough to complete like 5-yard slants.
Yeah.
Sorry, I gotta keeping us on track here. The Bo Nix stuff. That's maybe a future discussion. I'll give it to you, Crane. I don't think you've done your bag defending yet. Who do you got?
Jaylen Warren, baby. Jaylen Warren. We're back.
Yeah,
we're back. Now, are we back in the box score? Not really. That's okay though. Last week, everyone tagging me and Jaylen Warren's dead. Oh man, what a bad take. Jaylen Warren, he's going to have a 13%
I created
snap
5
share.
burner accounts just to do that to you. Right?
Yeah, Sam was just trolling me with all these different burners. He was recovering from a hamstring injury, as it turns out, which I was hoping was the case. Notice I didn't take him as my bag defending last week because I was like, I would really like to see him play more in week 2. He did play more than Najee Harris. He played 48% of the snaps. Najee Harris at 45% of the snaps. Harris got a lot more work. Harris, they're still leaning on in the early down, but not all the time. Warren's getting series. It's somewhat similar to last year. It's more tilted toward Harris than we want, but we're back to kind of like what we thought the play was in the first place. So like it's a split backfield. Warren's going to get more of the receiving stuff. Harris is going to get more of the early down stuff. Cordell Patterson had a 6% snap share. He's back to not being involved, which is a big deal. We need this to be a 2-man thing. And now we just bet on the more talented player. So we're back to that. The Steelers offense not as fun as maybe it could have been, or maybe it just never was going to be fun under Arthur Smith. That's maybe the part that does look worse. But as far as kind of the thesis of the play, we're back to the thesis of the play being intact, I think.
Yeah. And the Arthur Smith stuff, I want to give him some credit. Like, he knows his opponents in weeks 1 and 2. It was the Falcons with, one-legged Kirk Cousins and the Broncos with Bo Nix. Maybe the offense gets a little bit more creative when they actually have to score points. Like, I think they.
Well, surely they're going to have to score points against the Chargers this week, right? Surely that'll be a really high scoring affair.
Yeah. But
what is the rest of their schedule? This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like somehow it's going to be the other 16 lowest scoring teams in the NFL.
Dude, when Russ felt his sore calf, and he checked the schedule, it was just like, oh no. They're going to be able to score 13 points a week and go 4-0.
I wish there was a big Russell Wilson guy in our community that we could all be making fun of this.
Look at him. He's right here.
That's not me.
He's right here. He's sitting right above you.
I made the Justin Fields bet before I knew it required me to root for Russell Wilson. It was never a pro Russell Wilson bet. It just landed that way. You can check my exposures, which I actually have no idea what they are, but in my head, it's like 7% Justin Fields and DraftKings, 0% Russell Wilson. No, I think I have like 1% Russell Wilson. But here's a bad take for you, Davis. This was kind of running around in my head in offseason. Isn't Jaylen Warren's upside case a lot better with Russ at QB than Justin Fields? Or is that
check downs? Yeah.
Goal line check downs.
I think we all sort of realize that.
Because I always thought the Jaylen Warren thesis relied pretty heavily on the receiving. You kind of need Russ for that over Fields, don't you?
It relies somewhat on the receiving, but it relies on him also being a really good runner. So, but I think I agree with you. I think his upside's a little higher with Russ.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, they get the Colts in week 4.
Oh my god,
it's over, dude. It's over. The Steelers are going to be 4-0, and they're going to have scored 24 points, 0 touchdowns, 0 touchdowns.
I did the same thing.
4-0, 0 touchdowns.
I did the same thing with the Chargers when I was trying to be like, oh, Justin Herbert's going to have better weeks. Like, surely they're playing like one good offense this season. And it's like, they play the Panthers like 5 times over the next 7 weeks. I'm like, what is that legal? Yeah. How is this possibly legal? Like they literally have 0 good teams.
Dude, their schedule's so easy. They get the Chargers, Colts, then the Cowboys, but that doesn't look as bad as it was. The Raiders, the Jets, the Giants. Then they get the Commanders after the Week 9 bye. Then it gets a little harder after that. But man, they might not lose more than a couple games before their bye.
Oh god,
they might lose one game. Like they might seriously. They could beat the Chargers, the Colts. They'll probably lose the Cowboys. They'll probably lose the Jets. So there you go. They're 6-2 heading into the bye. 5-3.
Steelers are going to be in the that Saturday 1 p.m. wild card game and just get absolutely blown out by the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can already pencil that in if you want to play some future bets on that.
Man.
All right, we'll move on here.
Steelers defense mega chalk in the FFPC.
Yes, yeah, the mega chalk for Steelers defense. Oh man. We'll move on here to panic button takes. I'll go first. I stopped Davis from talking too much about Sam LaPorta here because he's my panic button player. First of all, I want to say on the positive side, like, please interpret this correctly. I'm not saying Sam LaPorta is some kind of like dead fantasy asset. He's still a top 6 tight end for me, but I think
he was the tight end 1. He was the 30th overall pick.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I was not in on Sam LaPorta. I did end up with him in some managed stuff. I'm in some like industry leagues where he went later than expected. Actually took him in a FFPC main event where he went way past ADP. So I did get some exposure to him. And I think, like, as Davis was pointing out earlier, I think the Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs year 2 leaps are just coming at the expense of Sam LaPorta. Like, you watch this version of Jameson Williams in the offense, and it's easy to understand how Sam LaPorta only gets like 2 targets on 50 routes last week. Like, Jameson Williams is the guy you want with the ball in his hands in the open field over Sam LaPorta if it's that binary of a choice. And I think we've just gotten to a point where like they've just assembled a really talented offense. Jameson Williams looks really good. I'll happily take that on that. I think he looks awesome out there. Jahmyr Gibbs, really explosive player. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still going to do Amon-Ra stuff. And I think LaPorta, it's just that case of him being like the clear number 2 in the offense or taking a leap in year 2. I just don't see how it happens. I think on the positive side, zooming way out, we're still talking about the Lions. We're still talking about a Ben Johnson offense. Like, I'm not too upset if I have a piece of that, but I just don't really see the ceiling here for Sam LaPorta, where he was drafted at ADP. I think, Bowers 70 picks later, Kittle 40 picks later or whatever. Those look like way better bets to me, which is kind of the thesis of the fade for me in best ball. So yeah, not full blown panic, but I think the upside case for Sam LaPorta like now almost requires an injury to one of these other pass catchers.
Or he just has to run giga hot on touchdowns. He's got to score like 13 touchdowns.
But even the touchdowns case, like David Montgomery is like one of the best goal line backs in the league. Like, it can happen. Touchdown flukiness like can always happen. Like, you shouldn't try to over predict that. But even that side of it, like, I don't think you get into the red zone and you're like, Sam LaPorta is the one guy we have here. Like, they have options all across the board. So yeah, he's a guy I would move pretty, 20 spots down the rankings from where he was drafted, something like that. Still a top 5, 6th round player probably, but not a guy I'm pumped I took, in the 3rd round.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I wrote about that this week. It's just like, basically, if Jameson Williams is not a bit, if he's not, Kadarius Toney, that moves LaPorta from being like a 22% target share guy to a 17% target share guy. And there are a million 17% target share guys, Hunter Henry, I guess not Dalton Schultz, just like Gerald Everett, and obviously LaPorta is obviously better than those guys, and they're going to play, 16 dome games in a row or whatever. And like, I think he'll be fine, but yeah, he's just not going to be the highest scoring tight end in fantasy if Jameson is. Jameson now has 20 targets through 2 weeks. Like,
yeah, dude, he's just
not happening.
He's flipped the switch. Like, I'll like admit how wrong I was here on Jameson. I ended up with like 4% of him. Again, I made that up because that makes me feel better. It's probably lower, but I ended up with 4% of him. Dude, he's just good, and they're scheming him up way differently than they did the past 2 years. Like, you can basically toss that data out from the first 2 years. Like, I'm ready to throw that away at this point. Like, that doesn't matter. It's a different player. Really, it's a different situation. Yeah.
He looks really good. I mean, he's I think the thing that's concerning if you're LaPorta, or if if you have LaPorta bags, is that what does LaPorta do for the offense that Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't do for the offense, right? It's all kind of the similar short area stuff. He's probably, better around the goal line, but Amon-Ra is kind of just a better version of the LaPorta target. Jameson unlocks a whole new element to the offense, like that deep threat, and also just the ability to like get moving over the middle of the field. And he's like super fast now. Like, there's lots of different things you can do with Jameson Williams that really adds an element to the offense in a way that like LaPorta is very good. He's pretty good after the catch. But he's not doing like they have Amon-Ra. Like Amon-Ra is kind of going to always be the number one target earner in the short area of the field and probably the intermediate area of the field too. So it's just he was all it's very damaging because they now have like a secondary option in Williams that by being the secondary option, I think makes the offense better.
Exactly. 100% agree on that. Davis, any final points on LaPorta? Otherwise, move on to your panic button player this week.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide my panic. One of them was it's too insular to best ball, and there's nothing we can do about it now, but it is the Denver Broncos. This idea like, oh, you just take one of the Denver Broncos running backs every time.
Yeah.
You're going to get all these expected points. The expected points, I mean, maybe they will get the expected points, but there's not going to be any actual points there because Bo Nix is too ass. I think a more helpful and useful take for people who are still playing or going to be drafting moving forward will be the Rams are actually going to have the season that the haters thought they were going to have last year. Remember coming into last year, part of the reason why, Kyron was going undrafted was like, oh, Stafford's going to retire. He's got this wrist injury. McVay might retire. Aaron Donald just retired, like all this stuff. And they actually kind of pulled it out and had a decent season. It's all happening now. I mean, it's over. Kupp's going on the IR. Puka's on the IR. You've got 36-year-old Matt Stafford with Tyler Johnson, Demarcus Robinson, and Tutu Atwell, and Colby Parkinson. Like, oh, Kyron Williams, he's going to be... Dude, it's not happening for Kyron. It's Siberia, man. It's over. Like, they're all... Send them all to zero. It's not going to happen for the Rams.
It looks bad. It looks really bad. And, yeah, I... Actually, first, is my internet breaking out? I lost you guys.
It did for a second.
It did give us the wheel for a second, but you're back.
Okay, I'm back. Okay. Like I want to say this like pretty carefully because I think victory lapping injured players is like one of the most annoying things people do.
Yeah, don't do it.
Just in the fantasy space. But
6th round rookie from Texas.
But. That's all I'll say. Okay. No.
You should have just said Target Cliff. You should have just said Target Cliff and moved
Target
on.
Cliff. I was texting back and forth with Roto Pat last night. I'm like, there's a Target Cliff joke out there. I'm not brave enough to do it. Anyone wants to take it? No, man. But like seriously, like aging player. This is part of the thesis of like aging players coming off injuries. And again, like the Kupp thing could have totally smashed.
He wasn't
like,
coming off an injury though.
He was coming off
completely healthy.
He was coming off a season where he was banged up the entire year and was like playing the whole year.
I don't know if I would classify. He was coming off a season that had been marred by injuries, but he was completely healthy all offseason.
I mean, to Sam's point though, 31-year-olds just get hurt.
Yeah, I'm saying like if you're building any reasonable model of like predicting injuries, like age. That's a big factor.
High ankle sprain. No one's susceptible to high ankle sprains from dudes rolling up on them. Like that's
guys who've had lots of soft tissue and lower body injuries are more likely to have
hamstrings and ankles. Hamstrings and ankles. That's what we're talking about here. If he pulled his hammy, you'd have a much stronger case here. This can happen to anybody. It just happened to Pacheco. Is it because he's a year older than last year? I
just don't buy that like Cooper Kupp and Malik Neighbors have the same like injury risk going into the season when one of them's like 32 and the other's 23. Like I just don't believe that's true. Like it's not about exactly how it happened for me. It's just like that's part of the input when you're fading.
I think it should matter if you're bringing it up as relevant. It should matter how it happened. The Cooper Kupp getting a high ankle sprain was never more likely because he's older. A high ankle sprain is something that happens to you because of a tackle. This isn't even like a non-contact knee injury. This is like
Tank Dell getting rolled up on run blocking. Yeah, it just happened.
This is extraordinarily thin. Like it didn't have anything to do with his age. Him getting hurt did not have anything to do with his age. In fact, the age thing looked pretty bad because he was clearly still going to be the engine of the offense if he stayed healthy, despite being older.
I think you did get bailed out a little bit. Let me say
he got bailed the fuck out.
No, let me say
he was like on a per target basis, like through 2 games, he was like one of the most inefficient
How many
players in the
on
NFL.
how many targets, Sam? On how many targets?
You don't think that like
this is like the fucking duck meme. On how many targets?
An aging player,
how many targets, Sam?
an aging player that gets hit a ton does not have a higher injury risk than a younger player with no medical history. Like I just 100%. We're just not going to agree on this.
Like you're kind of doing this thing where you want to make it about, do older players have a higher injury risk than younger players? Like, yeah, they do.
They do. Okay.
They do, but like to bring up that you were right to be fading Cooper Kupp and now he's injured as if those two things are related because of his age. They're not. He got this particular injury has nothing to do with him being older.
This is a stupid argument.
Like victory lap on a high ankle sprain for Kupp, like that is.
I'm saying
fucking stupid. Like, this has nothing to do. Like this is
let me make a point. Let me make a point in Sam's favor. I'm going to make a point in Sam's favor. I think Sam is wrong that he got hurt because he was injured. But what Sam is correct about is that if you have a high ankle sprain at 31, your recovery is not going to be like when you're 24.
Sure. I'll give you that. Yeah. Now that he's hurt, it sucks that he's old. Now that he's hurt, it sucks that he's old. Yeah.
Yeah. I love yelling at each other on the show. The point I'm just trying to make, and the point I was saying all offseason, is that like Kupp's ceiling was undeniable. But if you weren't factoring in like increased downside risk for him due to his profile, his age, his history of injuries, I think that was wrong. Our job is to make bets, and like Kupp.
Well, don't you think so?
Kupp clearly. Can you just let me wait? Just let me finish this point.
Okay,
Kupp clearly had a path to just smashing me and making me look like an idiot. Like that was always on the table. But I think our job is to like make bets with these guys, and I think he had much higher downside risk than other guys going near him. That was my point of the season. The process-based stuff, like I got lucky. He rolled his ankle.
You got extraordinarily lucky, I think, and so did I. I was not really taking Kupp as I think Kupp pretty clearly was one of the worst priced players in the pool. In that he should have been going higher. Kupp should have been going a lot higher. Like I did not think that Kupp heading into like week 1, right? You got Puka. He goes out with injury, but like from the jump, we were like, oh shit. The season where he's just like the clear engine, the offense with Puka on the field is in play. Like I thought after the way last year finished with the playoff game and everything, and Puka coming on and he's the second-year player and Kupp's aging, I was like the upside case for Kupp is good but not amazing. And very clearly we saw that no, he leads all wide receivers in targets, even if Puka stays healthy, is possible.
Corinne, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
We were baking in too much downside if that was the case.
Let's say he doesn't get injured yesterday. He plays that game and he finishes with 6 for 65. I don't think and I was more of a Kupp guy than I more than you. I mean, I was drafting him the whole time. Aren't we feeling pretty bad about Cooper Kupp after watching them play that game yesterday? Just being like, this team just doesn't have the horses. It's just not gonna happen.
That's part of my perspective.
I don't think we would. I mean, frankly, I guess my answer would be no. I mean, he's disappointing as like mega chalk in DFS and everything,
Sure.
And we're like, wow, them getting like completely blown out by the Cardinals is not good. But I think maybe you would be more worried about their running back who doesn't catch a ton of passes than the wide receiver who just gets peppered targets. You know what I mean?
Kyron, by the way, they just started every drive with a -1 yard run. Every drive was like Kyron Williams for -1 yards. All right, man. I guess.
I mean, he got 21 targets in week 1, man. He got 21 targets. Like,
21 targets for 70 yards is pretty cool, but you're still going to lose every game.
He had 110 yards and a touchdown. So I don't know. I mean, we don't play in like points per did your team win leagues. You know what I mean? Like
but teams having good offenses doesn't matter.
We're betting over backwards. Kupp was clearly one of the better picks on the board at price. I mean, he was going in the late third at times. Like you're talking about, we didn't bake in enough downside. Like this dude showed that he could still return to just being the true number one in an offense in a highly concentrated
He did really prove the breakfast narrative. He did prove that when Stafford is like having a bad day, he's just gonna be like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna give Cooper the ball, and if we lose, we lose.
He stays healthy, he's gonna outproduce Jamar Chase. Like this idea that like we didn't bake in enough downside risk, like we did. We baked in a lot. Actually, we baked in a lot of downside risk compared to the upside case that
I guess
to be clear, I was not in on. I did not think that upside case was intact with Puka Nacua there. Now Puka going out helped, he doesn't rack up 21 targets in week 1 if Puka is on the field, but like still like he was, even with Puka on the field, he was already, shown. I was like, because I had a lot of Puka. I was in on the Puka's the year 2 guy. He's going to emerge. Also hurt, by the way. I don't know if you know this. Puka's actually younger than Cooper Kupp and hurt his knee. So it does. Young players can get hurt too. But like, I just didn't think that Kupp kind of reclaiming the mantle from a healthy Puka was like even. I mean, like, come on, that's going to happen. And I think it would have happened. I guess it's all we don't really know, but it looked like that's the way things were headed.
Yeah, those are good points. And I think honestly with the Kupp stuff, like I think when you say he was going 3-4 turn at part of the offseason, that was wrong for sure. He was underpriced there. When he was going by the end of the season at pick 14, 15, 16 on DraftKings, in my opinion, that was also very wrong. And I think, Crane, you were with me at that at the time, at least. I don't know where you'd say but
I was with. I mean, I never was hammering Kupp. Like I think I ended at like 5 or 6%. I wasn't like fully fading him. This isn't I was right about Kupp. Why weren't you with me? Yeah, I was at 6%.
No, I'm not saying that's what you're saying.
So I'm the only one with skin in the game who got impacted by this. Well, fuck you guys.
This is a classic. This is a classic. Crane and I yell at each other for 30 minutes.
We have the same exposure.
Have the identical exposure to Cooper Kupp.
It's about updating our priors. I think to me, you've updated your priors in a very self-serving direction, and I think that we were wrong. We were just wrong on Kupp. Like he had a lot more upside than I thought he did.
Yeah, I disagree with that, but we got to move on here. Crane, your panic button player.
Well, now that I've yelled at you and called your take really stupid, I'll give you a little bit of this is an apology take. I'm going to say panic button on Kimani Vidal. Your boy J.K. Dobbins' victory lap last week.
Could not disagree more with this, Corinne.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing about J.K. Dobbins. He just looks really good, and Gus Edwards looks like ass. So I'm not sure that this is like the Chargers are running the ball well.
Immaterial.
I think Dobbins is just like the dude. Like we bet, we were like, okay, uncertain backfield. We got to find the uncertain backfields, and then we got to take. Now we can't take J.K. Dobbins because he's going to be totally dust. So we got to take a 6th round rookie, right? We got to take Gus Edwards, who stinks, but we can't take J.K. Dobbins. I don't know. I just think like what J.K. Dobbins is doing is just really impressive right now. And what are we even? Through injury, I guess we could get Vidal later in the year, but like we maybe overthought this one. Vidal, 6th round rookie versus the guy they said was going to be a big part of their offense. Feel like we should have taken that guy.
No. So this is why you're wrong. You're wrong for 3 reasons. So the first reason you're wrong is that Gus stinks. Harbaugh's only going to tolerate a running back stinking behind his offensive line for so long. The second reason you're wrong is that these running backs that they've had active over him have not played on offense at all. I actually literally do not know if it's Jarrett Patterson or Hassan Haskins, but they've only been active for special teams. And the third reason you're wrong is that there was a little bit of implosion risk for the Chargers with this. I thought of being like Harbaugh doesn't know the NFL game. Greg Roman gets kicked out of every job. Greg Roman just almost ends up being bad. All that is not true. They're great running the ball. The offensive line is great. The vibes are high. They're 2-0. Herbert seems happy. It's all good. Edwards is going to 0. Vidal will be active. Now, maybe Vidal won't be active till week 5, but it's definitely happening. That is. I really disagree with this panic button.
I hope you're right. I have a lot of Vidal. So
yeah,
be nice.
I have a lot of Vidal too, and I also want to be clear that me victory lapping Dobbins last week. I was not. I was more in on Vidal than Dobbins. I got pretty high on Dobbins like near the end, so definitely got some. But yeah, I hope Davis is right on this.
Can I?
I will second quickly. Yeah, and then I'll let you go, Crane. I'll second quickly like the Gus Edwards. At least the snaps I looked at last week looked like he's out of the league pretty soon. Like it looks really, really ugly for him. They need to probably get punched in the mouth a couple times and like lose some games for them to make a change. Because if they're just winning, they probably don't change it up. But
looks very Buffalo
looks,
Bills Leonard Fournette.
It looks really ugly. Go ahead, Crane. You have a point there.
Well, Davis is correct. So can I change my answer? This one's more fun.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because Davis, you're right. Eventually, Vidal will get a chance, and we'll see then. How about DeAndre Swift? We did the Bears receivers last week.
Oof.
DeAndre Swift has
negative 44 rushing yards over expectation.
Negative 54.
44 was just last night.
And he's got an 18% success rate, which is kind of the thesis of the fade on DeAndre Swift is that he's really inconsistent. When he had a catch last night where he like got going, and I was like, "Oh, this is fun!" Like when he has a great second, or maybe I think it's like a second/third gear that he kind of gets into. You're like, that's impressive, but he doesn't always get there. And man, he's just not the inside runner that they're going to want to lean on. Herbert gets the touchdown. I think we're going to. Oh yeah.
Sorry, just funny comment from Nez. I wanted to pull up. Swift is a smash in my bounced outside for no gain league. Him and Chase Brown actually go at the 1-2 turn in those leagues. So
yeah, for sure. I think he goes 1-1. Yeah.
Jacob made this great point yesterday on Twitter. Jacob is so smart. He noted that like all the high leverage third down and fourth down short yardage stuff was Herbert. So pretty clearly what's happening is the coaches like Khalil Herbert more, but they know the GM paid Swift 3 years, $24 million. So they're like, shit, I guess we got to use DeAndre Swift. But like when a play really matters, it's going to Khalil Herbert.
Yeah. The other thing with Swift, like, you know, the rush yards over expected stuff like does take into account 8 men in the box and everything. But like, I still like to look at, you know, who's facing a ton of stacked boxes. Cause that's like rush yards over expected is going to be juiced by long runs. So are you going to like, what's the chance for a couple weeks? Like who's more likely to rip off long runs? So for example, Jameson Williams has the second lowest rush yards over expected in the league at -47, but he's faced the highest stacked box rate in the NFL. He's got through 2 weeks, 58% of his carries have come against 8+ defenders in the box. Jordan Mason is second at only 40%, so 58-40. So he's in a tough situation for Jameson Williams. Swift, lowest stacked box rate in the NFL so far, 8%, and yet the lowest rush yards over expected in the NFL. I would say, if anything, that makes us more confident this is like real. Like he's had chances to rip off long runs so far. Now it's only 2 weeks, but he's also been a bad runner for a while. So, yeah.
Not
looking good.
That's a good one. I think they gotta go to Herbert at some point. The Swift stuff looks really bad to my eye as well. I think the people who are, you know, briefly giving the other side of things, the people who are saying his role is pretty secure and more locked in than people think. You can say that's right through 2 weeks. It's just a matter of whether that is going to hold up over the course of the season. All right, guys, an hour 10 in. I think did I miss everyone? I think I let everyone get their panic button takes off.
Rams.
Sorry.
Did you do one?
Yeah, did you do one?
I did Sam LaPorta.
Oh yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So is someone getting like? Is there a chainsaw going off in the background?
There's never a good recording setup for me, no matter what I do.
He's got landscapers.
I changed rooms. I'm Ethernetted in. No, this is a neighbor. This is not. I'm Ethernetted in. Now I did leave the back door open, which is creating quite a bit more chainsaw noise than you might otherwise hear. But it's nice out, and I wanted a little flow of air. So yeah, my bad there.
All right. Well, anyways, fun show, guys. It wouldn't be ADP chasing without a little bit of screaming, yelling at each other. I'm glad we got that out of our systems.
I can't believe you victory lapped. Oh,
dude, the whole point of the thing
I was
is
just completely blown away. Truly blown away.
I was not victory lapping the injury. I said that at the very beginning of the take. If you roll the clip, producer will prove me right on this one.
You clearly were victory lapping it.
I was not. You guys put me in so much pain last week. I'm not allowed to go back to the thesis of the bet. I had to cry myself to sleep after last week's show. All right, so.
This is your villain origin story. We put you in too much pain. Now you're.
I tried that in the show, and you fucking dragged me for fading Cooper Kupp.
I mean, you said he hit the target clip. He hit a target clip in week 1, I guess, 21.
He hit it into. He fell off the target cliff after week 1. That is for sure. Oh man, this Cooper Kupp stuff is so stupid. But anyways. Where are we at, guys? Anything, Davis, you got going on this week you want to tell people about?
Yeah, streaming every day. YouTube.com/Davis_Maddock. Be there or be square.
Awesome. Pat, anything going on?
Check out Legendary Upside. We're going to have a quick slant posted here by Matt Irby on the Monday Night Football game, so look for that. And yeah, we got the waiver wire weekly rankings, rest of season rankings. Sam helping out with the weekly and rest of season rankings, and we've got the walkthrough out every Friday. So yeah, check that out. Respectfully, Sam and I did not agree on the Cooper Kupp stuff. Respectfully, I think your take is not correct.
Yeah.
Respectfully, Cooper Kupp is not Justin Jefferson.
Respectfully, I tried to rank Rashee Rice over Cooper Kupp in the rest of season rankings. I was vetoed there respectfully by some opinions I really respect on Cooper Kupp. But I did try to help out the leg up subscribers, but respectfully, I was
yeah, because you respectfully knew that he was going to suffer a high ankle sprain this week. Because you're respectfully really good at predicting.
Let me be clear.
Injuries.
I say this with a lot of respect. I really love all the stuff at leg up. Love all.
Respectfully, let's please get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I will say quickly before we get out of here, I'd really recommend. I hope you guys check out my weekly article on Established Run, breaking down the film of all the breakout players. This week, I'm going to look into Quentin Johnson. That should be an interesting one. Also look into probably Hunter Henry, Brock Bowers, maybe something with the Saints offense, still figuring it out. But last week broke down the J.K. Dobbins, JMO stuff, was all in on them being big difference makers after what I saw in week 1. So hopefully that's helpful for your guys' trades, maybe your waivers with some of the players. But yeah, that's all I have to say. We will see you guys next week as soon as I can find the outro clip. Peace.